Investigative Journalism and the Trial of Adnan Syed by Michael Cosgrove. In many of the cases we have studied in class, there have been instances of the media interfering with our system of justice and the outcome of a trial. However, the media can have positive effects on the justice system as well, like the case of the West Memphis Three, where media influence was used to bring into public view an instance where 3 men were unjustly incarcerated. Adnan Syed has spent the last 18 years in prison for the murder of his ex-girlfriend, Hae Min Lee. However, media focus on his case prompted Judge Martin P. Welch to grant Adnan a new trial in 2016. This media focus was sparked in the most unlikely of places, an online podcast called Serial. Serial is an ongoing podcast narrated by Sarah Koenig and produced by Dana Shivas and Julie Snyder. The podcast, a mix of investigative journalism, first-person narrative, and dramatic storytelling, focuses its first season entirely on Syed's story in 12 nail-biting episodes. They were downloaded more than 175 million times, a world record. The series also won a Peabody Award for excellence in investigative reporting for its coverage of Syed's story. Investigative journalism is a form of reporting that seeks the truth behind major misrepresentations made to the public. Instances of financial fraud, political corruption, and incongruencies in the legal system. It is intended to draw attention to failures within society's systems of regulation and to the ways which those systems can be circumvented by the rich, powerful, and corrupt. It is distinct from apparently similar work done by police, lawyers, auditors, and regulatory bodies, and that it is not limited as to target, not legally founded, and closely connected to publicity. The main purpose of investigative journalism is to uncover lies and incongruencies that other professionals do not have the time or the inclination to discover. Though unconventional, Serial is a form of investigative journalism that seeks the truth behind some convoluted subject matter in a very entertaining fashion. Serial differs from other forms of investigative journalism in many ways. In today's society, we want our information delivered to us in a quick and concise manner. We tend to get most of our news in short blurbs, telling only the basic facts with little depth. The first season of Serial contains over 500 minutes of audio in 12 episodes. The detail in which Sarah Koenig examines the murder of Hae Min Lee and the subsequent trial of Adnan Syed is unlike the coverage found from other media outlets. This is largely due to the time constraints that limit the information we can receive from other forms of media, such as television programs, documentaries, and newspaper articles. A well-researched book is perhaps the only medium that could come close to delivering the amount of detailed information uncovered by Koenig and her team. Cohen was very objective in her reporting as well. Though she may have been partial to Adnan, she seemed more concerned with finding the truth than anything else. This lack of bias is a breath of fresh air in a media environment where every outlet seems to have its own agenda. Koenig's objective presentation of the facts in the case allows her listeners to decide for themselves whether or not Adnan Syed is guilty in the murder of Hae Min Lee. From the information presented, I found it improbable that he commit the crime, and saw absolutely nothing that would prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he should have been convicted of murder. Prosecutor Kevin Urich based his case against Adnan Syed on the testimony of Jay Wilds, an acquaintance of Adnan, and the cell phone records that corroborated Wilds' story. Jay's testimony by itself, would that have been proof beyond a reasonable doubt? Urich asked. Probably not. Cell phone evidence by itself? Probably not. But when considered together, Urich said, they corroborate and feed off each other. It is a very strong evidentiary case. In addition to a very shaky motive, claiming that Adnan had killed Hae in a premeditated crime of passion, these two elements proved to be too dubious to even be considered as evidence. Jay was a casual acquaintance of Adnan's. They occasionally smoked pot together, but it was in no way a close relationship. They were seen together on January 13, 1999, the day of Hae's disappearance. However, the details of what they did and where they were at certain times is unclear. When Jay was brought into questioning for his involvement in the murder, he confessed to helping Adnan bury Hae's body, but said that was his only involvement in the crime. Prosecutor Urich provided Jay with pro bono legal advice from a private attorney, and a plea deal was signed in exchange for his testimony. For the prosecution to provide an attorney for the defendant is unheard of in the legal profession, and a possible sign of collusion between Urich and Wilds. At best, Wilds would have felt compelled to give Urich the story he wanted in exchange for his extreme leniency. In light of this gross violation of legal ethics, Jay Wilds' testimony should not have been admissible in court. Urich brought an expert witness to the stand, Abraham Woronowicz, an engineer from AT&T whose area of expertise was cell phone technology and cell towers, and who was fully conversant with the technology, the capabilities of that technology, its operation, and what the records revealed. This witness would testify that cell phone records could place Adnan at the scene of the crime and show evidence of any calls made that would corroborate Jay's story. Woronowicz later stated that his testimony was unreliable, explaining that only outgoing calls could be used to mark a location. He also stated that this information was given to the Baltimore Police Department on numerous occasions. Hae and Adnan had a very intense relationship but one that was relatively short-lived. They met on secret trysts as their parents would have disapproved of them seeing each other, especially Adnan's parents. As Adnan's family were devout Muslims, he was forbidden to even go on a date with a girl, let alone one from outside their religion. His mother, suspicious of his activity, would question his whereabouts, check the mileage on his car, and even listen in on his phone calls. When Adnan's parents found out he was attending a dance with Hay, they stormed in to bring him home. This incident was very upsetting to Hay and was the catalyst for one of their many breakups. Only Hay could know the real reasons she ended her relationship with Adnan, but it was likely due to pressure from Adnan's parents and the stress of keeping their relationship a secret. To the world, Adnan was a model student, involved in athletics, and an upstanding member of the Muslim community. But he had a bit of a dark side as well. Adnan freely admits to smoking weed and having sex while in high school. Though these are not abnormal activities for a 17-year-old, the prosecution used them as evidence of bad character. They painted a picture of Adnan as a sociopathic liar who presented himself to the community one way, but was quite the opposite in reality. According to the prosecution, Adnan was conflicted between his love for Hay and adherence to his religion. He became enraged when Hay broke off their relationship, and then set out to kill her, using his deft manipulation skills to lure her in and then cover up his involvement in the crime. Though possible, the prosecution's motive for Adnan to murder Hay was weak at best. Adnan was represented by Cristina Gutierrez, a prominent defense attorney nearing the end of her career. Though Gutierrez was savvy enough to figure out that Uric had provided Wilds with free legal advice in exchange for his testimony, her many blunders while representing Adnan most likely cost him his freedom. Asia McClain was an alibi witness, willing to testify that Adnan was at the school library when the murder took place. An affidavit stating the truth of this was signed by McClain and delivered to Gutierrez's office. However, no one ever contacted McClain, and she never testified during the trial. Gutierrez overlooking an alibi witness was not her only mistake. She was completely negligent in her examination of the cell phone evidence as well. Any capable attorney should have been able to determine the faults in Woranowitz's testimony and have it removed from evidence. During the trial, it was noticed that Gutierrez was behaving strangely, in such a way that her performance as an attorney may have been hurting Adnan's case more than it was helping it. Adnan claims that he instructed Gutierrez to seek a plea deal, but his request was ignored. It was speculated that she had intentionally botched a trial in order to collect more legal fees from the appeal, though this was never proven. Gutierrez was later disbarred for stealing close to $300,000 of her client's money. Strange behavior aside, Gutierrez's blunders regarding Asia McClain